Have you struggled to find the right techniques, right products to give you the finish that you want in your complexion? Today, I'm going to invite you to get ready with me as I do my complexion, and we're going to talk about some of the things that can be confusing. What primers to use, what techniques to use, how do we really get a nice natural finish? So thank you for joining me, and let's get into it. We're going to start with primers. I'm going to show you a few different primers that I really love, and some will be high end, some will be low end, and I'm going to talk about what I need in a primer, but what you need may be completely different. And that's one of the things that is important to me on this channel, is to really talk to you about how you figure out what you need. So for my skin, I have generally dry, mature, 60-year-old skin, and I have a couple of different concerns my primer to help with. So I'm going to do a smoothing primer in these areas where I have more enlarged pores, I have more texture on my chin, and those are the areas that I want to really smooth. Overall, my skin is pretty smooth, but those areas are just a little bit more challenging. The rest of my face, I'm going to use more anti-aging general primers that are going to help smooth lines, do all the things, give me a nice glowy base. So when it comes to these textured areas, I'm going to show you two different products. I'll do the Tatcha on my right side and the e.l.f. on my left. And again, these are only going where I have that texture. Now this type of primer, they're usually more of a putty, and you need very little. The mistake that people make sometimes is just overdoing it. So you can see my hand just slides right over this. I'm not picking up a lot. But with this type, you also want to make sure that you're pressing it, because basically what it's doing is filling in pores, lines, anything, any type of texture. So I'm going to do the same on my chin, where again, I have more enlarged pores and I have a lot of lines there. For some reason, I guess I'm really expressive with when I talk, and I've created wrinkles on my chin. So I'm just pressing and patting. Now, a tip that I recently saw with this type of primer, if you're having a hard time with it staying in place, something that you can do is spray your beauty blender with a setting spray and use that to press that in. And I'm going to use a little of that up here too. Now, I don't know if you can see a difference how it's smoothing the texture, but that is what it's meant to do. Now I'm going to clean that finger off. And on the other side, I'm going to use the e.l.f. Poreless Putty. Again, it looks very, very similar. It is the same type of product. They feel similar. This e.l.f. feels like it has a little more slip to it. But again, I'm going to press that here where I can see a little bit more pores when I put my foundation on. This one seems to spread a little bit more and almost feels a little more hydrating. So we're going to see. Another tip with your primers, you really want to put them on and give them time to set. You don't want to immediately go in with your foundation before it's set. That's going to cause a little bit of lifting and could also cause a little bit of pilling. Now for the rest of my face, I'm going to use two pretty different products, but they are both in some regard an anti-aging primer. On my right side, I'm going to use one of my all-time favorites. This is the Elemis Pro Collagen Instant Smooth Primer. So this does do some smoothing, not to the extent that those putties were going to, but for the rest of my face where I really want it to do some smoothing, this is going to do that. Now, this particular one also has skincare benefits that over time help to smooth and soften lines and wrinkles. Now, because I'm only doing half my face, I'm really going to put out a little less than a pump. And I'm going to take this all the rest of my face where I did not put that putty. And if I can find some of their before and afters of the benefits of this primer long term, I will put those in here. Sometimes, finding the right primer, just like your skincare, can be such a chore. So I try to guide you on this channel how to find the best things for your skin, because I think it's really important that as you're watching people in videos and making recommendations, that you understand that your skin is so unique and what you need for your skin may be completely different than my needs. As I said, my skin does tend to be more dry. I don't have a lot of sensitivity, and what I'm looking for may be different than what you're looking for. At some point, we will address what your specific concerns are. And I would love for you to comment below and tell me, what are your concerns and what would you like your primer to do for you? So on my left side, I'm going to use the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer with niacinamide. Now, it is different than the Elemis, which is over time really going to smooth, but this does have a skincare benefit with the niacinamide, so I still would consider it an anti-aging primer. It is a more gripping primer, so I'm curious, we'll see together how my foundation lays on the Elemis versus the e.l.f. And again, I'm just going to take about a half a pump. This very little goes a long way. And as this is drying down, some of the things that you may want in a primer. If you tend to have more oily skin, you're going to want maybe some oil control. You may also want, if your skin tends to be more dull, you may want something that's really going to bring a glow and maybe an illuminating primer. So these are all things to think about when you're looking for your specific primer. Now, something that I do, I have a little fan to kind of speed up the process. This is also really helpful if, due to our maturity, we may get a little bit hot and sweaty while we're trying to put on makeup. That's always fun. So this side is pretty well set. So I'm going to go ahead on this side and start with my concealer. I have been using and loving the House Labs concealer and foundation. I'm going to have to throw my glasses on here for just a second to read the actual name. Triclone Skin Tech Concealer. What I love about this, it's very hydrating. It feels great on my skin. It looks very natural, but it also has great skincare benefits. So I'm just going to take a little on the back of my hand. And this is a tip for folks who really struggle to keep their concealer from creasing. Many, many times it's due to the amount of concealer that we put on. And when we go in and we start to put it this way, I feel like many times we just get too much concealer. So I'm going to take my concealer on a brush and I'm literally just going to pull a little bit off my hand. I don't have my brush super loaded. This way I can come in and have a lot more control over how much concealer is going on my skin. I got sidetracked there, and I was going to tell you another one of the reasons that I am really enjoying this concealer. It looks very natural. The color that I chose is pretty close to my skincare. I didn't go super brightening. But the ingredients in this, one of them is fermented arnica, and it really helps with puffiness. If you wear this concealer on a consistent basis, it is going to help diminish the puffiness. I generally have quite a puffy spot on this side, and it has diminished significantly. So I'm going to also take that concealer and I'm going to go on the eyelid. I'm going to use this to prime my eyes as well. So it is treating our skin with great skincare as well as giving us great natural coverage. Now, another mistake that I feel that we make is getting a concealer and not really thinking through the finish that we want. How much coverage do we want? One of the struggles is wanting full coverage, but not wanting it to look heavy. And so a mistake that I see often is getting a concealer because it says that it's lightweight and a natural finish, but we don't think about the amount of coverage. So if it has a lighter coverage, but what we're looking for is full coverage, we're going to use too much concealer to get the coverage that we want. There are concealers on the market that are full coverage that are still lightweight. So just keep that in mind. If you really want a full coverage concealer, find a full coverage concealer that has the other benefits that you want. Okay, so my eye area is concealed to my satisfaction. And before I go in with my foundation, this is again where thinking about the coverage that you want, the finish that you want before purchasing these items is important. The foundation that I absolutely love, which is the Haus Labs foundation, has a medium coverage, which in general, all over my face, that's what I love. But I do have all of this pigmentation that I want covered a little bit more. Something that I also love about the Haus Labs concealer, I can use it on my face and I can cover some of that pigmentation before I even start my foundation. So I'm still working with the concealer on my concealer brush. And again, I'm not picking up too much, but I can go here where I have the pigmentation and kind of spot conceal the areas that are important to me before I go in with my foundation. So it could be dark spots, it could be broken capillaries around the nose, anywhere that you feel you want a little bit more coverage than what your foundation gives you, you can adjust it just like this. Now you may already be noticing I'm creasing a little bit right here. It's okay. We're going to fix that, and I'm going to help you understand how to keep that from happening throughout the day in how we set everything. Okay, we're going in with the Haus Labs foundation. This is also called Triclone Skin Tech Foundation. And I'm just going to do one pump. My preferred method to apply foundation is with a damp beauty blender. You can certainly use brushes and those types of things. I find with more mature skin, my beauty blender gives me the best finish no matter what foundation I'm working with. So that's what I'm going to do. And when we talk about a damp beauty blender, what you want to do is get your sponge completely wet. And I'm going to show you here the difference between a dry beauty blender and one that has been prepped. So I ran this underwater, got it completely saturated with water, then wring out all the water that you can, and even take a towel or a paper towel and wring it out even more. So it's just bouncy and slightly, it barely feels damp to the skin. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to take just a little bit. Start with less, you can always add more. I personally like to start in the center of my face because that's where we generally need the most coverage or want the most coverage. That's where someone's looking at us. When they're looking at us, they're looking at our eyes, they're listening to what we're saying, and they're not necessarily caring about what's out here. People don't really notice that, but the center is where we really want our coverage. So you can see I've used very little of this, and I'm getting a really beautiful radiant finish that looks like skin. So I can press that crease out right there. I've really been so happy with this particular foundation. It's not the only one that I use, but I really do love it. And you can see also when you're using a beauty blender, you cover so much space on your face that it makes everything really quick and easy. And if your ears show, don't forget to get your ears. Okay, so there's our side that has the Elemis primer and the Tatcha primer. And through here is where I can tend to have those pores that show, and also on my chin. So that's where that particular smoothing primer, more of a putty texture, took care of. Okay. Now my primer on this side has had time to set up, and it is, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of tacky. It's sticking to my fingers. So it's going to be a little bit different than the other side. But I'm going to use the same products for my concealer and my foundation. I might kind of jump through here a little bit more quickly just because you already know what I did there. So I'm picking up some concealer on my brush. And because I didn't go in straight with the doe foot, I'm not getting too much. I'm not getting more than what my skin can handle. So my eyelid is primed and my under eye. Now my most significant lines are these right here. I'm not happy about it, but it is what it is. So I do know that I'm going to get some creasing there, and we're going to go back and fix that later. All right, on to our foundation. Again, I didn't put a whole lot. I'm going to pick it up with my beauty blender, kind of work it in there, and start in the center of the face. Some people will do their eyebrows before their complexion. I always get foundation on my eyebrows that I need to clean off. So the order of your application is completely up to you and how you do things. I just know I'm not that neat and tidy with my sponge when I'm putting on my foundation. So I might as well save my brows. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to fix them anyway. And I'm going right up, connecting that to the concealer. Now, it's hard for me to tell right now. My mirror is a little distance from me, but I don't know if there's much of a difference in the primers. So I have the e.l.f. putty primer here and the Tatcha here. I have the Elemis anti-aging primer and the e.l.f. niacinamide primer. Okay, so we've got our complexion done. How are we going to set this? It's very personal to each one of us, whether or not we like to powder or use setting spray or a combination of both. For me, I wish I didn't have to powder, but I do have some areas that I feel like I need to. The under eye area, I really want to stay nice and bright and smooth, but I know I have this deep line here, and I have some issues. My mascara, no matter, I have tried every single type, and if I don't dust a little bit of powder, and I'm talking the smallest amount, I will get my mascara down here. And I've been a makeup artist and skincare expert for over 25 years. You would think I could figure this out some other way, but I haven't. So I am going to pick up a very, very fine colorless powder. I'm going to tap off as much as I can possibly tap off of this brush. I'm going to make sure there are no creases on my eyelids and underneath. We don't want to set in those creases, so we want it to be nice and smooth before we set that powder there. And I'm going to start on my eyelid. So if there is a little more on my brush, it's coming off there. Then I'm going to take it just here. That's it. This is also a powder that helps to smooth the skin. So in those areas where I use the Tatcha, I'm just going to make sure I lock that in again with the smallest amount of powder. I'm going to go kind of from the side of my nose down and in where I have those pores. So I'm really not adding any texture there. This is such a beautiful powder, and I will link something. This particular one is no longer available, but I will link something that is very similar. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Get any creasing, and I'm literally just pressing. Another thing that you can do, because it really is just having a little bit more product than what our skin can hold on the surface, to find where those areas are going to be, you can do a little squint test like this, and that is going to show you where things are going to crease. Then you can go ahead, you can use your finger, or you can go back with your beauty blender, and that's actually going to pick up any of that extra so that you can lock in the nice smooth finish. So I've got my powder ready. The littlest amount on the brush. I'm going to pick up just a little bit more. I'm also going to do the chin. And again, these are areas, you know, kind of study your own face and find where it is that you have any creasing issues. I have it here. And then I also want to smooth this texture. I don't really get creasing, but I kind of like the smoothing right here. And that is all I'm going to do for powder. Now I want to talk about setting spray. A lot of times people just set their makeup at the end of their entire application, which I do that, but I kind of like to set along the way as well and lock in some of the things that we've already worked on. We've got our skin smooth, we've got our foundation and concealer looking great. So I want to lock it in now. I can still continue with color, blush, all of the things, but my base is going to stay flawless. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Milani Make It Last, the original. And when you're using your setting sprays, you don't have to be afraid. Get your face wet. But at the same time, don't be a crazy person and like have dripping skin. I am. So a couple times passed. This again, I'm going to bring out my handy dandy fan. I got this at a conference for some makeup brand, I'm sure, that I was working for at the time. Another trick, use your blow dryer and put it on cool. That feels even better. But this just speeds up the process so that I can go ahead with other things. So this is kind of my complete complexion, and I know that it's going to last. I know that the primers that I chose are right for my skin. So that's the end of my general complexion. And, I can certainly go ahead and complete a full makeup application on top of this. Or if I just really want my skin to look great for the day, I can stop right here, put on some mascara, and I feel nice and polished. Please, if you enjoyed this and you would love to spend a little more time learning some things and we can kind of bounce off each other with your comments, I would love for you to subscribe and like this video, and I hope to see you again.